Decoding behavior. Let's talk about that. So pillar number 4, decoding human behavior. So what does it mean to decode human behavior, and why is it a valuable skill of personal growth and understanding others? Well, life changes through actions. And it's not only actions, it's also mannerisms, it's habits, it's how we act, how we react, unconscious reactions, and our environment. All of these lead us on a certain path in life, going towards where we want to be going or not. And so as people come to the soul-searching experience, life event, we first clarify where people actually want to be going to, right? What's the destination? What's the goal? What's our path and purpose that we are walking towards? It is good to have that clarity. It is important to have this clarity. And here is why. As certain stimuli from the environment are being processed and given meaning to, meaning when sensation is being evaluated and becomes perception, what do you relate that to? Because they are all different kinds of stimuli coming your way, and you want to relate that to the center, to the path where you're on in your life, whether that's relevant to you, or whether that's something worth considering and worth spending time and attention to. And in reality, oftentimes we do not find our main purpose right away, and then it's completely clear for years to come. Most of the time, it is that we get it directionally right. We find out the direction in life where we are going, and then the path appears as we are stepping, as we are taking more steps, the path appears and the fog clears up. So this is the first thing that we do. We help people, so I help people clarify, and we together go through a clarification process. And the beautiful thing about that is that whenever I'm having an intervention, an interaction with somebody and a conversation, the learnings from this conversation are either immediately recognized as something that is valuable for you too, as an observer when you're just overhearing the conversation, or I make sure that I will relate it to you as well as you're going through this live seminar experience together with the other 5 to 15 people that we're going to take on the ride of the soul-searching experience here in Peru. Aren't you excited? I'm on fire. That's going to be good. Okay, so what does it mean to decode human behavior, and why is it a valuable skill for personal growth and understanding others? So life changes through action. And we want to find out how can we take the right actions that are getting us to this destination, to the goal for our lives, how our dream life looks like in the first place. Like, how do we get there? What are the actions that are required for that? And in fact, this is nothing new to you. You know exactly that through action taking your life changes. The question is, if it were so easy, everybody would already do that, because pretty much everybody has, or at least at some point in their life, has had a dream of theirs, of how they wanted their life to be like, who they wanted to be and become in their lifetime. A burning fire in their soul, or maybe just a tiny flame of discomfort that if nurtured, it would sprout to a majestic, mighty mustard tree. All right. Planting the good seeds, the seeds of good deeds. So taking the actions, right? And if it were so easy to just take the actions and just do it, if it were so easy, everybody would do that. But here are two considerations for that. First of all, we are affected by the invisible forces of life. You don't believe that? Well, gravity, for example, is an invisible force that affects us. Have you ever been with a woman or at the beach with a woman? Then you see the force of the moon, and you see the waves coming in and out through what we understand is the gravitational pull of the moon. And so the moon pulls on the water, and it pulls on the woman, and yes, it pulls on your emotions as well. And so do the other planets that surround us. And so does your environment, and so does whether you have had enough sleep, or whether you are in imbalance because you're eating too much carbohydrates and too little good oils. All of that brings you out of balance. And many other things on top of that. Emotions, whether you harbor shame or guilt inside of you, whether you have some resentment from the past that you haven't processed and haven't allowed to be let go of. Whether somebody seeks validation or not, or whether they are just generally full of love all the time. What a beautiful idealistic way. But that's oftentimes not the case for all of us, is it? Right? We're not just full of love all of the time. But we do have these emotions, and they do affect us. And especially because as we grew up, there was this one certain type of inflection point where our parents sense that now the child's capacities to comprehend the world and the rules of society has matured to the point where it's now ready to receive being taught the rules of the family and the rules of society. Because the parents sensed before that, when it was just an infant, he or she wouldn't understand it anyway, so they didn't even try to teach anything or impose anything or kind of guide or restrict in any kind of way, right? To kind of guide and put boundaries on the development of the child. But at some point they sensed that our mental faculties have matured to the point where they actually could do that and could teach us the rules of the family and the rules of society. And so they did, and we experienced that as very traumatic, as love falling away. And now all of a sudden we had to be a certain way in order to get the same kind of love that we previously used to get gifted for free, gratis. And now we had to do something for it. And that was experienced very much as a traumatic shock for us, where we felt, okay, what I previously used to get just freely, the source of love, the oxygen of my soul, the love that I needed as a child, because as a child you really did need that, like as in a very physical, visceral way. And now we still feel that we need that because we have the memory of that. But now we can learn to generate that love from within, whereas as a child that wasn't possible for us. In the same way as your body just didn't generate the semen when you were a child. You couldn't get children back then, right? But now you can. And now you can also generate love from within. Your body and your mind and your soul and your heart have matured to the point where now you can give instead of only receive. Isn't that beautiful? All right. And so the child learned that now I had to be a certain way. Now certain conditions were being put upon the love and my behavior, so that I needed to be a certain way in order to be okay and in order to be loved. And oftentimes it wasn't quite so ideal. That means oftentimes our parents have not taken the full 100% responsibility of clearing out all of their confusions and their immaturities and their childishness before they had us. Usually they grew into that just after they had us. So they were bringing in a lot of their own conditioning into that, and part of that is just normal and natural, because as you are seeing a child grow and as you're raising your own child, and by the way, I don't have any children of my own, but I've seen, good friends and family members of mine already raise their children, and I'm very, very interested and always, I can talk about this for hours. This is one of the topics where they just want to talk. I'm just, bring it on, just keep talking. I'm so interested in everything about child development, because I know that is the piece from which a lot of my work stems, or where a lot of my work points towards, the childhood, right? And the dynamics that happen from it. And so, as it is 2:22, and as we're just briefly going to put that here on Instagram with a good worship music, the holy number of 2:22, as I'm keeping my concentration up. What kind of city? So we're just saying worship, worship, nothing else outside of that. God's plan, that sounds good. All right, so we put that in here and put that onto divine timing and remain on the path and on the purpose, on the topic, even though we're doing something else. It's called multitasking. Apparently women are better than that. Worship, 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 and the same song comes up. No, it doesn't actually. Instrumental hymns and worship. That's good enough. Alright, so we throw that on the Instagram story to publish to my list and my good friends. And here we're back. And so as a child we have grown up believing that we needed to be a certain way, because there was this crucial inflection point of now conditions were being placed on the love that we wanted to receive back then and we needed to receive back then, and now it is entirely different. Now we had to be a certain way. And so as I was saying that, what was the question here that we were considering? Yes, decoding human behavior. All right, so First of all, we find out, we clarify where people want to be going, then we purify, we solidify, we clarify, we go through process of decision making of what belongs to my path and what does not belong to my path. What can I say no to? In fact, what must I say no to? And what must I say yes to that I haven't yet? And how to also make it nice and fun and easy. Because I'm not about hard work, I'm about working easy, but all the hours. That's just my personal philosophy. And I also don't believe in rapid change, I believe in slow and steady change. That is my approach. I know that there are some hypnotherapists and other kind of therapists, and Tony Robbins himself, whom I've learned from, right? You see the certificates there on the wall. That's largely from his work. And so, even though he has been the one-stop therapist of handling things in one go and in one outcome, that's not my approach. And I realized that a lot of people do need more time, and life has many years, and it's meant to be so, and it's okay. There are not that many things that we actually need to do. And so if you were already through with everything that you need to be doing in life by the time you're 26, you would be very bored. And in fact, some people have mastered all of the areas of life at 26, and that's great. And that's beautiful. But as I said, life has many years, and it's meant to be so. And that is okay. Life has many years, and it's okay that processes take time. Because it is also an act of faith to say there is a future. Of course there is. Of course there is. So it's going to be fine. All right. And so decoding human behavior. When we're talking about human behavior, it is important that we understand it from the frame of action taking. Once we know what we want and how do we want the life of our dreams to look like, then we also come to the second pillar of life is guiding us. Life is guiding us through the voice of our intuition, because the intuition gives us out a feeling response. It is not a linear kind of thought-based mind response in the same way as you are perceiving the voice in your head or as you're hearing other people's voices. It's not quite like that. You don't hear it. It's not like a linear verbalized response. You more get like a feeling component, and that is scary for a lot of people because they have shut off their feelings altogether because there were some feelings that they didn't want to feel. But as you are partially or kind of selectively shut off some certain feelings, you also shut off your entire capacity for feeling altogether. You can't just shut off one feeling selectively, you can just shut off feeling. And that is dangerous because these feelings, they come back to you. And then you behave in certain ways that we will explore very soon in this video at a later point. So life is guiding us, and life is providing us with the life lessons that we need to learn. Life is the best teacher. You don't need any teacher outside of life. Maybe you would need an interpreter for somebody who can translate the lessons of life to you so that you understand it. Because as we are in our lives, we see things in the way that we relate the perceptions and the environment to us. We form an egoic entity to which we relate the stimuli of the world, right? We form an identity and we understand this is who I am. We form this identity, who I am, based on what we do and based on how we habitually feel, what feels familiar to us. This is the identity that we're starting to incorporate and inhabit. And so with that, life is guiding us through a process of helping us understand the lessons in life and where we want to be going. Because there's a certain attraction in life that we can follow, and that doesn't mean to follow our emotions of what I really want to do, what I feel emotionally inclined to do. The intuition is something else. There's a difference between doing what feels good and doing what's right. Doing what's right is oftentimes the very thing that you would do as opposed to what feels good. So your intuition suggests what's best for you. It is your bodily intelligence that takes into consideration much more factors than your linear mind ever could be. The flip side of that is the trade-off for that. So it takes in more data at the same point, But the flip side of that is you got to know how to read that, how to kind of receive the voice of your heart, the voice of the intuition, and it gives you out a feeling response, right? Salesmen and saleswomen and women in general will tell you that they have the ability to get a vibe about somebody. Everybody who's trained in people in leadership, people in HR positions, leaders of all kinds of teams, of companies, everybody who deals with people, a salesman, as I said, a customer service person as well, you can tell vibes, the energy that somebody gives off, because you're trained to that, because you have to pick that up, because based on that, you will have to adjust your response, right? Based on how you meet the person. You want to meet them where they're at. So first of all, you got to understand where are they actually at, right? So we get a vibe from people, and that is what the intuition is. The intuition gives us a feeling response. And so, first of all, we clarify for people where they want to go. It's clarification, it's strategizing, it's purification, it's simplification, it's cleaning up one's life. It is finding out directionally where do we want to go in life, and then having the faith of stepping as the path appears as we're taking action. Because you can't possibly see step number 17. And it may take you 2,500 steps, 2,500 steps to actually get to your dream destination. And you can't even see step 17. You gotta step 1, then you see step 2 kind of clearly, and step 3 kind of. But this is also the practice of like, you don't need to see step 3. Step 2, that's it. That's step. That's step. Every day, taking steps, planting seeds. The seeds of good deeds, right? And then secondly, life's lessons. Because life is the greatest teacher. Life speaks to us through the voice of our heart, which we can perceive with the intuition, and guides us towards a life that is natural for us, right? Because when we are not in balance, when we don't live the life that we want to live, sure, we can make excuses and we can say, well, I have to live this life because of this and because of that, because I've had a child when I was young, because I need this job and now I've moved here. And many of these things are definitely true right now, right? And so, but if you're actually on the path of following your heart and living the life of your dreams and creating that, and you really see that my actual only goal in this life is to actually live the life of my dreams. Now there are many sub-goals underneath of that, and many different action and behavior changes. But once you actually see, okay, this is the path that I'm committing myself to. I am creating the life of my dreams. And with that focus, I'm getting there within my lifetime. Once the path is clear and once I know what I'm actually wanting. And then you can also say, it's like, okay, I'm in this position and I might even be here for the next 3 or 4 years. And like, that's all right. I just keep doing what I'm doing, taking the steps, being positive, being smart about that, and doing as much as I can without burning out and while maintaining good habits. And so that's what I do. And so yes, so life is about action. Action depends on a lot of invisible factors, invisible forces that are affecting our action-taking capacity. We not only want to take action, we also want to take the right actions in the right way. Oftentimes sequence plays a role, so you want to take the right actions also in the right sequence. And oftentimes action-taking, as you're leveling up in life and as you're creating the life of your dreams, oftentimes it involves other people. In fact, all of the time, it involves other people. Even if you run your company solo with AI, and even if you're just doing online marketing, whether that's affiliate marketing or SEO, at some point people will click on your email. People will click on your email, or people will read your article. So you will have to have an understanding of people as you do that, and an interaction with people. And so the more positive and the more convinced you are, the more convicted you are, the more you can persuade people, and that is about taking action. And so then the last piece is decoding human behavior. We need to change our behavior in order to get to the life of our dreams. That is the one factor that really changes your life, is taking action. But as I said, there are all kinds of factors that are influencing our action taking. We have certain needs, we have certain energies inside of us. So we can't just lock ourselves in a room and work for 5 years and then we are forever rich and then we don't need to work. It's like, it's not so black and white. You get up and then you have a few hours and you get hungry for the first time, and then you do something in between for work, and then you will at some point bathe yourself and defecate and be with some people and maintain the systems that you have. And then you go to sleep and then you start again. Life looks very similar for a lot of people, in the sense that we want to find out, what do we do for work and who are the people that we spend time with. These are very important pieces. And then obviously, sleep quality, how do we eat, what do we eat, and then what are the systems that we actually need? Do we actually need all of these systems that always need maintenance? And so even if you don't maintain the system, then you got to get somebody who does maintain the system, right? The lawnmower needs to be maintained. And so are you the person who is mowing the lawn and maintaining the lawnmower? Or is there maybe a different way how we can, simplify our lives, right? That's what I'm really all about, because all of these systems, they need to be maintained. And so as we're talking about decoding human behavior, we want to find out what's the real reason behind this behavior. That's what I said. So as people are joining the soul-searching experience, luxury retreat, the life event that we are hosting, we find out clearly what's the path, where are we going. We understand the life lessons that life has already given you, being able to translate that for you so that you actually understand what do the things that you're going through, what do they actually mean, right? And what do your behaviors mean? And that's the third part of it, of bringing your life back into balance. Energetic realignment, I'm calling it, and decoding human behavior. Finding out why do we sometimes not do the things that we know we should be doing based on the clarity of where we want to be going. Why don't we take the right actions that we actually know that we should be doing? Now, it's one thing to not know what to do, but if you actually know what to do, and frankly, most people actually deep inside, they kind of actually really do know what to do. Why don't we then? And why do we instead sometimes do actions that we don't want to do? And here actually comes in my work of decoding human behavior, because here's what I found to be true. Two people demonstrating one seemingly, on the outside, seeming identical behavior, they can have two very different causes. So let me give you an example. Let's say two men or two women are either drinking or overeating at night. Let's say the example of drinking, for example, drinking alcohol, but like habitually. It's not out of hand yet, but it's starting to become a dependency. In fact, it has become a dependency. And so, let's say two men drink at night, and they can do so for very different reasons. The first person, it could be because there's a lot of anger harbored inside, and it gives the permission to just let it out, right? To like watch a sports game and get some drinks and like just shout and like let it out, or even worse, hit the children. I know that this is horrible, and I'm only giving this example because I know that it is the reality in a lot of families, and it has been the reality for a lot of people watching here, that they've been not only spanked but also beaten. And I just want to give this piece of understanding that this is why. This is why. It doesn't have to do anything with you. It was the person that did that, who harbored so much internal pressure, was so disappointed with their own lives potentially, and just felt so cheated by life of, didn't get the love from their wife or their job. They felt disappointed. They felt they've messed up their lives themselves. They should have done something better, something different. Whatever they're feeling. And they haven't found a mature way to let go of that. And so they let it go out in other ways, in very unhealthy and destructive ways. So that can be a way where every time they drink, they feel they let loose and the barriers drop, and they have the permission, at least they give themselves permission, to then act out that anger. For another person, it might be completely different. They may not go into anger, but they may rather go into sadness and defeat. So every time when they drink, they go afterwards in a pattern of feeling totally worthless and totally vulnerable and defeated. Because they said, I've drunk again. It has happened again. I can't prevent that. I can't not do that. I just have to. Then they go into these mental patterns. And it can be that they're harboring like a deeper feeling of sadness inside of them that only comes out in these very emotionally similar states of defeat and sadness. So their brain has learned that when the sadness is harbored inside, it is being shut off, shunned, so to speak, that then drinking is a way to let go of these emotions and to let these emotions out. It can be also that you drink because you just want to give your body a rest. It can be that simple. It can be because you feel that you have too much mental energy and your mind is constantly spinning, and when you drink, this is the only time when you actually feel that you can wind down. And so I leave you with that. Life is meant to be lived, and there are many different psychological forces at play that you don't need to understand all of them. But if you're currently in a position where you say, I know who I am, or at least I want to find out who I am and where I want to go, I want to have the experience of being guided by life, and I believe that I can find that. I trust that I can find that. But you feel that you know that you need to take action, and the right action, and you haven't found a way yet. There seemed to be something getting in the way, and you were doing things that you actually don't want to be doing, and you're not quite doing the things that you want to do. Then you may want to reach out. And you don't need to come to a seminar. I help you out for free. This is not me gatekeeping the value. It's just like, if we are face to face for 5 days, this is the best way I can help you. Obviously, write a comment, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll help you out regardless. But yeah, that's the type of work that I do. And that's been 12 years in the making. And I'm very proud to present that to people, to the world. And so, until we cross paths.